guys. Here about Jesus Christ. And so Jesus Christ, when he came here, the first soul. And so the first soul, when it happened on the first soul, on the foot, when Jesus Christ had to come here, it was destined that Mother Eve, when she ate that fruit, she did not mean it, because that time she was still pregnant. She was not literally in pains, but in moods and all those kinds of things, and she was comboed by Lilith, Satan, and all those other demons, with Gadriel being a helper into turning them into a serpent so that they can hide, and all those kinds of things. And then also this part here, why he came, so it was that part of the foot. The reason why the foot now was marked, that corner for the foot, is because of that part of the judgment there of fairness. And so when the right side was marked now, it was this part of when Cain killed Abel. When Cain killed Abel, Cain did not really do a wrong thing when he killed Abel, because for him to kill Abel, he killed Abel because of his God did not want to accept his offerings, as if he was a bad person just because of that seed. And whereas Cain, all this time, he was able to work hard under vegetation, under the sun, while his Abel is just chilling nicely, watching over the flocks. And yet Cain still took care of his brother. And so the problem about Cain is that the way he dealt with the problem, he did not try to talk with Abel so that he can trade with Abel. And if he did try to do that, it would have been told, and even Eve and Adam, they would have tried, and it would have shown that that part has passed. But even if it did not pass, that part that God did not accept Cain's offerings, when Cain had walked out and offered foods there, it was a problem. That is why it had to be changed. And it was a normal way of doing things, which was the beginning of all things, because God wanted sacrifices of flesh. And so it was that reason why there had to be a sacrifice of nothing instead of slaughtering something. That is why even when it comes to a human, it becomes a very, very massive issue. Because when Cain left, he had a covenant of anger with God. And so since he had a covenant of anger with God, he looked at the sacrifices at the human's images there, because when he left, he was astray with God. And so when Jesus Christ came on that part, the Holy played on the part under defending Cain. It was this thing that, which is the reason why Enoch did not know that Cain's part was rescued, because Enoch that time did not manage to pass this judgment of the fallen angels here, which all things ended up being concluded under me. So basically, yeah, that thing went on to me, that inheritance on that part there. Yeah, that is how I can best identify it for you there. And so when Jesus Christ came, the purpose, that is why Jesus Christ, when he died, he had to be a sacrificial lamb, so that all those things can be official. And only God can do that. That is why it was God who had to come in a human flesh, so that all those things of flesh can come to pass and be born as something different, instead of him directly coming and you saying God literally died, and instead of Jesus Christ, though God died. And so Jesus Christ dying, it was that thing of the flesh being sacrificed, the last of it, closing it, because it did not work out well there. That is why the third soul also had to be considered. And so it was also this part that that is the reason why it had to change from traditionals into prophets of the Bible. Like we have traditionals, there are those cultural ones like Sangomas, Inyangas, and like the prophets of the Bible. The prophets of the Bible, they are those ones that don't sacrifice, don't slaughter when they appreciate to their God in most cases. And so the traditional ones, they are mostly forced. It is because of the traditional ones, they are the ones who held that thing from the start. And Jesus Christ, him coming, it was this thing that it had to show that Jesus Christ had passed. And since the gift, it is like that, it was that thing of a trace back. It had to, a mark has to be left behind. That is why we always have marks of where we came from and clues of the things that were left behind, so that we can know and understand our heritage, because our history, because that is the thing that we always have to have. And those are are the things that mostly need proof if they cannot be supported. Those kinds of stuffs. That is why it had to change under the gifts there of those who see. So when the gift of seeing had to change there, because for you to become a prophet of the Bible or a traditional, you are born with a gift. When you are born with that gift, it is that thing that you will be actually told by your ancestors or those who gave you the gift that okay, your gift falls under the prophets who don't actually sacrifice, or those ones who fall under traditionals who do sacrifices. That is why the traditional ones, they have that core power, and the prophets, they have it by chance, and not all of them. That is why even for you to open your seeing, in most cases when you go to the traditional ones, though the prophets they can open it, the traditional ones they'll give you more recommendation, like they can help you become a prophet or become a traditional one, unlike a prophet helping you just to become a prophet. So it is those slight changes that because of Cain, when he left, he was no longer able to do sacrifices and appreciate to his God, because he had to find his own God. That is why it had to take part like that. And through Cain's seed, as they all went along, those that were born, Moses and all those other ones, though Moses was not literal from Cain, but those that were born after Cain, it was that thing that seed, that gift was still continue under them, since God was still with them. Hence it is the reason why Cain also received his beloved wife, because of that word of it is not good for a man to be alone. That is why God made a man, a helper suitable for him. That is why Cain, when he got his wife when he was left alone, when he was kicked out of his family by his parents and his God, because he became his own man. And so that is how it started, and that is how all those other stuffs happened there. And so basically Cain is not going to hell. Cain is falling under the third soul, Cain and Eve, and even the angels that have fallen there. Yeah, and so on the other video I'll be telling you about the angels that have fallen, their judgment, how it went along with their giants, with their wives. But it will be one package there, because it's not really that much. I don't want to